Gliricidia is one species of trees in agroforestry, which is very important. It is a very fast-growing species. Within a period of 2 years, you have big trees that will reach almost 2 meters and giving you enough wood, enough poles, and most importantly, it has a lot of leaf material or leaf biomass, which is used by farmers to enrich the soils. If a farmer applies Gliricidia leaves in his field, the leaves just decompose so quickly to start releasing that nitrogen and the other elements that are essential for crop growth. And farmers can depend on it without necessarily having to depend on inorganic produced fertilizers. Are quite out of reach of farmers. They are quite expensive, and they have also their side effects to the soil and even to the food which is produced out of it, has also some side effects. Because of that, we encourage farmers to use the Gliricidia leaves because of what they do.
As farmers, we are taught by Komako to make a compost fertilizer. This is the type of organic fertilizer. To make this compost fertilizer, this farmer needs to have this tree so-called Gliricidia.
Every farmer must have a field of Gliricidia. It starts from the planning that they do. They must have a field which they identify. We are encouraging that they start small with only 1 lima, which is a quarter of a hectare, and which may only need about 500 seedlings to be planted in a spacing like you are seeing here, between the rows of lines. It is to another, it's 5 meters. And within the row, it's just 1 meter from one plant to another. This gives the farmer enough room to do his cropping. And these trees are planted, first of all, in a nursery. Once they produce there, then they are brought in a field like this one. And that helps them now to manage the crop. The first year, the farmer must grow the seedlings with a low crop, not maize, but a low crop like a legume, such as groundnuts, such as maybe cowpea, such as soybeans. Those are the crops which a farmer should use in the initial year of establishment. Why? Because they will not give a lot of shade to the seedlings which have been planted. The seedlings will also need some sunlight so that they can grow into big trees. And when that management, when that kind of planting is done, and the farmer plants early enough in the season, farmers would plant with the first rains in December, and then it would take 3-4 months of the rain season. That gives enough time for the seedlings to grow and become established. They will have, their root system will have gone deep, and their branches will have developed, and that makes it to be able to stand even the next dry season to help them establish quite well. 2 years later, the plant will have grown to a bigger size, and then the farmer will need to start a regime of cutting or pruning those trees. And basically, we encourage that the trees should, the farmer should cut these trees at heights not less than 50 centimeters. It is between the range of 50 to 1 meter. And once the tree is cut, at the beginning of the planting season, the stems are taken by the farmer home for fuel. And in an area of 1 lima, a farmer can produce enough wood to be able to go out through the entire season without having to go into the bush to cut fuel. And this is very, very important for a farmer. So they will have to use various tools to cut. There are a number of, it's easier for a farmer maybe to use a machete, or we call it a panga. They can do that. But they can also use a bow saw, which leaves a very clean slate when you use a bow saw. The panga, the farmer has to be careful that you will not destroy the stem, because that reduces its copicing ability. But these are tools, it depends on what the farmer has. Others would use axes. If the stem is big enough, they can use an axe. But all these are various tools at the exposure of the farmer. Why is this important? It leaves a stump, and that stump is one of the ways in which it maintains carbon. You know, these trees are capturing carbon dioxide from the air, from the atmosphere, and keep it into the roots, keep it in the stumps, and that is holding carbon from there to in the issue of climate change. It helps to really hold carbon in the soil and in the fields, which later a farmer or maybe a cooperative can also use as a way of selling the accumulated carbon in carbon credits. So these are benefits that come to a cooperative because of that. These leaves are also have some pesticidal effects. Farmers would get these leaves and take them to their barns where they're keeping the crop, maybe the storage barns for the maize and any other crops. They spread this at the base, and they put the crop in that basin, and they also keep on applying more of these leaves. That helps to keep away or maybe repel the weevils and all other storage pests that are found in those areas.
Armyworms. These cannot attack your field just because of the presence of this wonderful tree, so-called Gliricidia. We can also make powder. This Gliricidia powder is not only made anyhow. We dry the leaves of Gliricidia in a shade so that when they dry up, they still look green, meaning that content, that stronger part of this tree is still in those leaves. Then after drying in a green color, you pound, and that Gliricidia powder, when well mixed with the crop, definitely the weevils does not attack your crops. Now, how? Before you sprinkle that Gliricidia powder into your grains, you sprinkle a little bit of water, somewhat a bit of water, so that that grain becomes moist a bit. So that when you sprinkle Gliricidia powder, those Gliricidia powder will now stick to the grains. Then you dry that those grains again. So after that, you can pack those grains into sacks, and nothing can happen. Not even a single weevil will attack your crop or your seeds.
We have done some research as Comaco with other partners, and in terms of assessing the yields that come out of this crop, we have discovered that actually the farmers that do not use any fertilizer, they can get 2 to 3 times higher yields if they use Gliricidia leaves and the Gliricidia system. And it's quite comparable to the ones that are using inorganic fertilizers. Maybe I would say in Gliricidia we have found yield going up to about 3 tons per hectare when you calculate. Whereas the ones with inorganic fertilizer, it can go up to 3 tons and 3.5 tons in this small scale farming system. So that is almost, there's no significant difference between the Gliricidia and the organic fertilizer, but very, very significantly different from those farmers that can't afford the fertilizer. And this is the importance why the Gliricidia is promoted.